Fox 45 News is questioning where the urgency is among city and state leaders when it comes to the juvenile crime crisis.
Well, 4 teenagers were shot in the last week alone. They range in age from 14 to 19.
The latest happened early this morning. Police say a 17-year-old girl is one of 3 people shot in West Baltimore. She is expected to be okay. One of the other 2 victims, though, died.
Baltimore City isn't the only place seeing a problem with juvenile violence. Last week, 2 teenagers were shot in Annapolis. One of them died. And tonight, we're hearing from residents fed up with the violence.
A lot of things that's happening, it's children. It's children running around shooting each other and stuff like that.
Well, some state lawmakers plan to come together in September before the session starts in January to talk about the rising juvenile violence. But as the problem shows no signs of slowing down, some are questioning if Maryland's young people can even wait that long. We have live team coverage tonight, starting with Jeff Abel, and a closer look at those concerned.
Well, lawmakers are vowing to examine whether these new reform laws are actually causing more violence than they're preventing. They've slated hearings for September, but tonight critics are complaining that may not be fast enough. A year and a half after lawmakers passed juvenile justice reforms,
Signal 13, Signal 13.
Juvenile crime is still racing out of control. This is what police say a 15-year-old was packing in Baltimore this weekend. It was recovered during a chase on Baltimore's northwest side. Prosecutors say juvenile reforms are in desperate need of reforming.
They come in, we can't detain them. They're back in the community the next day. They get picked up for the second one. Can't detain them. They're back in the community again the next day. They pick up a third. They're back in the community again the next day.
In response, the same lawmakers who approved reforms have called a hearing in September to determine whether the laws are actually allowing teen criminals to run rampant. Among their concerns, the new laws bar anyone 13 and under from being criminally charged and cap probation for others at 6 months.
After we passed the legislation, what became clear over the last year is that there are not the services that are necessary for these kids. There just aren't.
They know as well as I know that those services are not there.
Critics complain that the sense of urgency in Annapolis may not be urgent enough. The hearing to address juvenile violence is still 2 months away.
An 8-letter word. Vacation.
Political scientist John McCarthy suspects lawmakers scheduled the hearing after summer break.
I think a lot of this hearing is designed to placate the public.
Because the legislature doesn't meet until next year, McCarthy says the hearing will likely result in far more talk than action.
It's going to give people the political security to say, look, I take this seriously. I want something done. But it's not going to create action as far as concrete legislative program, because you still have to get some sort of program through the legislature, and then the governor has to sign off on it.
Again, those hearings, one in the House, one in the Senate, now set to take place in September. We're live tonight. Jeff Abel, Fox 45 News.
Jeff, thank you. Critics take issue with 2 juvenile justice laws. One is the Juvenile Justice Reform Act. It prevents children 13 and under from being charged with most crimes. If a child commits a misdemeanor, the maximum sentence is 6 months probation. If a child commits a felony, the maximum penalty is 1 year probation. Then there's the Child Interrogation Protection Act. It stops law enforcement from speaking with any child until they've spoken with an attorney. Unlike adults, children can't waive the right to speak with an attorney. Critics have called on the governor to call a special session to pass new laws to curb crime. Fox 45 News has heard from several state leaders who believe the laws tie the hands of police and prosecutors.
I think without question, over the last several years, the General Assembly has changed a number of the laws that deal with juvenile crime, and I think that's certainly led to some problems.
To be honest, I think it's one of the worst pieces of legislation I've ever read, because what it has done is taken the process of holding juveniles accountable away from prosecutors.
It's becoming more and more difficult to hold juveniles accountable.
Well, according to state law, if a young person is charged as a juvenile in any crime, even the most serious ones like murder, all of the information about the case is hidden from public view. That could be the case with the 16-year-old squeegee kid convicted of voluntary manslaughter in the death of Timothy Reynolds. The defense plans to appeal to have sentencing move to juvenile court. If that happens, the public will no longer be able to access details of that case. And that brings us to our question of the day. Do you think information about juveniles charged with serious crimes should be private? So far, 100% of voters say no. Head to foxbaltimore.com/vote to weigh in. I'm Mary Bubala. Thank you for watching. Here's another video for you to watch. Also take some time to subscribe to our YouTube channel.